The day of reckoning finally arrived. The girls stood on the weather deck of the ship, staring out into the vast expanse before them. The assistant had been Pinky, who had commandeered the ship's galley. The happy citizens of Easy Chord made smiley face pancakes for the whole of the confused crew. Now the two were in the middle of bonding over huge stacks of pancakes, talking freely as two old souls tended to do. For the others, however, they gazed with growing dread over the vista that was the Black Garden. The skies above were modded black and purple, looking all to the world like an ugly, pulsating bruise. An odd, wintry cold seemed to settle over the area as if the location was ruled by Wendigos, hell-bent on wrestling to hold the world from haunting them. And below, stretching for acres upon countless acres, were giant slabs of an unknown stone, being slowly swallowed up by blackish-green vines from which blood-red flowers sprouted. The air was filled with the sickly sweet scent of rotten honey, dying sugar ants, and too many other perverted delights. Strangest of all was the whole configuration of the location. Sprang out from the center like a lightweight teaser of the dam, the unnaturally patterned pathways of the mysterious vegetation, forming a magic circle that was strong enough for every unicorn on the ship to feel. And it wasn't anything pleasant. Hoofprints on the edges of my mind, Verity moaned, grasping her head in the throes of pain, until Twilight tapped her horn with a sheet of purple around her. The pony abated, fastening to look at her friend with utmost gratitude. My thanks, Twilight dear. I felt as if something was reaching into my consciousness. I think all the unicorns aboard the ship are acting that way, Albrecht said, looking at her friend with concern. Sorry you couldn't be here sooner, Twilight replied as she joined her friends. I thought Rarity would be able to withstand it better, given the shielding spell I taught her. But it seems to overwhelm all the unicorns on board. I've been moving through the ship trying to help each one back to rights, but I forgot about my friend. That's all right, dear, Rarity said, lying down on the deck and rubbing her horn gently. The crew of the ship takes precedence, I understand that. Rarity closed her eyes, concentrated. A second later, a dome of blue covered her. That's much better, such as, she said happily as she returned to a standing position. There was a stopping hush as the lower hatch opened, and Raspberry, clearly none the worse of wear, came to a stop on the deck. You were right, Twy, she said, gasping. I laid down countermeasures, but they're only temporary. In fact, it could just intensify a second wave once the Nestle spell bounces back and then rebounds. That's okay, Twy said somberly. By that time, I'm hoping we can put an end to it. A blood-curdling scream filled the air. Everybody turned to see Fluttershy at the gunwales, her body shaking as if a leaf caught in a deadly whirlwind, her eyes radiating abstract horror. They're... She turned away and her eyes were filled with tears. They're dying, Twilight. This monstrosity's killing them. Killing those poor animals so I can use their bodies as fertilizer. Sugar Cube, Applejack began, a heavy feeling setting in her barrel as he instinctively knew her friend would be right, even if part of her said otherwise. That's those power nature, you know that. This isn't nature, the glowering Pegasus screamed. This is evil, and we have to stop it. See? Now that is Fluttershy. You fanfics, they continue to fuck up. Pay attention! We will, Applejack said. Scowling at the grounds of her anger was a blast for Celestia itself. This overgrown reed patch had managed to hurt Fluttershy at her core, and Applejack would do anything to protect her friend, including pulling weeds on an industrial scale if need be. However, she trailed off as she saw the hatch open, and a woozy and Easy Chord was stumbling onto the deck, with one leg around Pinky, who was supporting her. Well, it was Pinky that was a surprise. Her hair was strained, and she was slightly grayed in her normally bright hues. Her eyes rayed ice-cold fury, almost from the furnace of madness. Saying for dance, she walked over to the gunwale, shouted down to Black Garden, You will not win, you hear me? You big bad meanie garden! I am picking me a Italian pie. And when I say fud, you say how high. Do you get me? Raspberry said, I knew today would come. Did I probably bring a straight jacket? Oh, hush. See, we're back to normal sooner or later, you know that, Verity scolded. Then amended it. I hope. When I say you party, you will party! Pinky shouted down the Black Garden. Letting go of Pinky, Easycore steeled herself and looked at Twilight. Princess, we are ready for your command to commence the operation. A skiff is standing by in a well deck to take Archmage's barrel airstrike team. Execute your orders, Twilight said gravely. Then turned to Raspberry. Okay, get going, girls. Take care, okay? The girls all got into a group hug. You too, Twilight, dear. They remained that way for a few seconds, until necessity made them break off. With that, they headed towards the hats and the small well deck, where skiffs were. I'm sending my best combat flyers to escort them, Your Highness. Escort said, I know it's not easy, but in my opinion, there's no fire troubleshooters in Equestria than the bearers. My thanks, Twilight said, turning her attention away from the naval captain and towards the bruised sky above and the sea of black, green, and red below. Bloodflowers appeared to take up most of the area, but with her Pegasus visit, the Alcor could see signs of ghost flowers, plunger vines, pony drake, cherry bomb trees, and so much more. Then, in several strategic places, she saw the thing that could spell doom for the Alcorns. Spirit Mint. Looking more like a mundane relative, the unknown chemical in the Spirit Mint took over the control of 3 parts of the Alcorn's body. The mind, the nervous system, and... Twilight blessed as he thought the third thing it took over. The reproductive system. Anyone who distilled Spirit Mint blooms as the core of a control spell don't have any Alicorn under control. Worse, said Alicorn would be a love slave, unable to think of anything other than the spell's caster. In many ways, it was worse than the love potion the Q-Mark Crusaders came across. That would at least allow for the final embrace for death. Between absolute control of an Alicorn and the immortality each had, it was a fate worse than anything else Twilight could think of. Granted, it was just theoretical, but it was the kind of theory Twilight had no interest in proof testing. Rainbow, seeing the dire look on her friend's face, tried to assure her. Don't worry, Twi. Whatever this hammerhead blockhead thinks he can do to us, we're going so he can't mess with the likes of you and me, okay? Right, Twilight said, rising into the air. Rainbow followed suit, and with that on cue, the 2 squadrons of combat flyers fell to position behind him. Their intent to bring the fight to the enemy and protect their princess. As the group rose to the sky, Miss and Mass joined Easycore on the desk. When I was a filly, I wanted to be a Wonderbolt. Imagine my shock when I found my Q mark made me more suitable for a naval officer than a combat flyer. I was shot. And now, with ponies just as the bears behind us, I would sail this ship to Tartarus if those were my commands, Captain. Easycore smiled. Good. 'Cause going up against the Whisper Pits, that's exactly what we're doing. Meanwhile, the skiff landed near the Painted Rocks, just across from the start of the blade of grass that signaled the domain of the Black Garden. Stepping out the skiff, Raspberry looked at the flyers assigned to them. Stand by for immediate rescue, if need be, she ordered, but don't get too close until you have to. We're protected by magic you might not be. Senior Flyer saluted. Roger that, ma'am. As the group wandered off, Applejack stated, I don't think they could come with us. Won't they be in danger getting this close to the garden? Which is why I asked them to stay behind, AJ. With Rarity handling the brother's shielding, I don't think we can afford to strain her magic on protecting extra ponies. At least this way we can focus on our job without Rarity having to worry about unnecessary distractions. Rarity nodded. That being said, darlings. Rarity immediately cast a spell. The 4 mares became enveloped in the near bubbles of energy. The bomb portions flat in order to allow them to walk in unimpeded. Well, Rares, nice work, Raspberry replied. The fastenings bowed. Why, thank you, Raspberry dear. It is nice to be appreciated for a man's touch in the arts. The 4 were soon walking into the garden, and as they did, Applejack's eyes grew impossibly wide. This shouldn't be possible, she gasped, pointing at the plants. The group stopped to look down at the grass, which had a look very much akin to the thread in the yarn. Rarity in particular noted that some of the tufts of grass remained surds. Care to explain? Raspberry asked. Yeah, it's fiberglass, the farmer noted. In and of itself ain't a bad thing, but But when you put it together with other plants, then it becomes a problem. My cousin, Panova Apple Farms in Minnesota, almost got completely ruined because of this here grass. Once it gets in touch with other plants, it turns into giant yarn balls. Her face grunted his face as he said, entire character got destroyed, and if it weren't for the fact that she was able to sell the garments and textiles, she would have been ruined. And yet it seems to exist symbolically with the other plants, Fluttershy said, a sad look on her face. By her feet were the remains of a rabbit, with strands of fiberglass making a home amongst the bleached ossification. It was both beautiful and macabre at once, and a fitting symbol for this hell that was the Black Garden. We need to get to the center of the garden as soon as possible, Raspberry told him. The sooner we do so, the sooner we can get this mess over and done with. That may be a problem, Missy. A voice suddenly came out of nowhere. The girls looked up to see a group of pirates standing there. Amongst them a stallion in a tawny coat, red mane, charcoal gray eyes behind the glasses. He had an outdated mane style and Prince Bushel glasses. If it wasn't for the fire and molecule mark that the stallion had, they would have assumed it to be Whisper Pinson's accountant. Reluctantly forced to work for the pirates. Raspberry looked at him with a stallion with distaste. Torch flamer, I presume. He grinned. You assume correctly, lass. Though I'm not surprised to see that Celestia has sent a newest pupil after me. A smart move, but not smart enough. After all, I take it it's time to study your ways, and me and my crew are more than ready to deal with the likes of you, Miss Sunset Shimmer. Though I must admit, you don't quite look like your description. Raspberry and Years looked at each other, and they could see they were very much trying not to laugh at their situation. It's, a disguise, Fluttershy said, trying to look serious and hide behind Rarity at the same time. Yes, well, Sunset dear, perhaps we should just confess, Rarity admitted. Raspberry had a slight tear of amusement in the Fashionistas' voice. Not that Raspberry could blame her. Sunset's personal peeve when she met Raspberry was being confused for her copy. Now that Horseshoe was on the other hoof, the unicorn could see why his friend was now so vexed. However, there wasn't an advantage of being confused for the wayward pony, especially Torchhammer was behind the times as he seemed to be. Posting greatly, Raspberry recalled a spell that was in Sombra's personal journals. He used the spell often to spy on people, and the very basics of the spell utterly disgusted her. It was a glamour spell similar to the ones he used in her everyday disguise, but it had a touch of compulsion in order to make some point actually believe it to be the individual in question. The pace where Sombra discussed it, the concept rankled her on a personal level, but if it could be turned to good, like now, she lit her horn, her pen bathing itself in magical undertones of claret. And a second later, the magic fans, leaving a rankled maze-hued pony to glare at Torchhammer. Her cyan eyes radiated irritation behind locks of red and yellow. Oh my gosh! An actual original spell! I'm sorry, but after dealing with friendship is timeless for so long and its uncreativity when it comes to magic, I was just thinking everybody forgot how to use cool spells! Okay, you have a disadvantage, Sunset Simmer said to Torchhammer. You may as well explain your terms. Meanwhile, back with Pinkie. Twits, it's the eye crazy me! Pinkie suddenly shouted proudly on the bridge, her eyes then wide and whispering, Oh no! Something wrong, Miss Pie? Mrs. Past asked. My princess just told me that we ran into that mean hand torture, whatever! But something doesn't seem to be what it is. Mrs. Past pondered on it for a second. Her chin propped up by Poe's hoof. Speaking to the Bostons, he asked, Do we have a location on the Whisper Pit? We have a spot in it just entering the far side of the Black Garden, and our combat fighters have already engaged theirs. Strangely enough, though, the pit itself is not attacked. The Boston looked at a small compass-like item that was flickering with a magic glow. It's just floating there, no cover fire or additional support, though it has a heavy magical seal around it. One of the pirates is a strike force. Wait one. The Boston checked the device for a few seconds before saying, Inbound, and nobody's challenged her yet. Shield might stop her, though. Nuh-uh, Pinkie said with a grin. When it comes to magic twice the best, no point can outdo her. Meanwhile, withstood Twilight. Twilight, using all her knowledge of her brother's shield spells, tore down the enemy barrier in an instant. Seeing that, Rainbow ordered their combat fighters to board and take out the enemy forces. But to their surprise, there was no one there. Rainbow's forces scoured the ship in seconds. But soon, another one of her flyers reported that aside from some prisoners in the ship's brig, the ship was completely abandoned. Don't get it. Why would they abandon the ship? Rainbow asked. It makes no sense. Common sense, you just don't use your heavy here when you're under attack. That goes against everything the military experts like Fawn Canverous and Pummel have repeatedly said. Twilight smiled. You read military doctrine, Rainbow? The Pegasus tried. Started out because of training needs for the Thunderbolts. Ended up reading because of some of the awesome things some of them did. Did you know that during the Diamond Dogs War, Rocket Fuel led a two-pony team deep into enemy territory to recover stolen battle plans? Twilight, who read General Rocket Fuel's memoirs only about 4 times, only nodded, suddenly promising to expose her friend to more doctrine as necessary. Raicho's books on hyperflight might be of use to her. But the princess said nothing, merely nodding silently while listening out for anything unusual. After all, it took more than just eyes and magic senses to find something that could be dangerous. And given that the ship was practically abandoned with living prisoners, definitely meant something was up. A few seconds later, the answer was discovered. Sirs, Princess, we got a problem. Rainbow looked at the flyer. What's up, Fireshot? There's an explosion of some kind near and around the ship's magic core, set to detonate within 30 minutes. Furthermore, airspeed just checked out the ship's course, and based on our best guess, it's going to detonate right over the center of the garden. Detonate over the center of the garden? A second flyer named Control Point asked. But that doesn't make sense, at least not from his standpoint. Doesn't he want to take cover or something? Let's check it out, Twilight insisted. In the meanwhile, why don't we check this explosive out? Might be something I'll be able to stop. And once we get an idea of what Torchhammer's game is... No suggestions were raised, and with that, the 4 ponies raided down the hatches. Deck by deck, they reached the engineering spaces, and the large half-machine, half-crystal lattice that was the ship's magic core. Surrounding it was a series of spinning, magical chains that glowed a fiery order. Twilight knew the spell the moment she saw it. After all, it had been her predecessor, Sunset, who created it. That's Sunset Shimmer's special solar circle emote. Twilight stammered. How did Torchhammer learn this? Something up, Twilight? Rainbow asked. Yeah, it's an illegal spell. Not dark magic, but an incredibly destructive spell nonetheless. Celestia told me that Sunset created it when she was a foal, and by complete accident, she's been trying to create a spell to use the sun's warmth so everyone can use it. I take it didn't happen. No. She created something that uses the sun's warmth to burn everything in its path. Her eyes widened horribly. Now I know what he's going to do. At that point, another flyer called out, Princess! And brought out before her a frightened mare. Her name was Ocean Wave, and she was the Sim's Shack of the Dust, and the one in charge of the ship's food stocks. She looked as though she'd been brought up by some of the pirates, and wove a horrible tale. Somehow, Torchhammer's escape had been planned for some time, as many of the crew aboard the Whisper Pits had been descendants of his original crew, and had been taught from the cradle to the grave to break out their leader when appropriate. I'm ashamed to admit, I'm one of the relatives of the crew, Ozuwave said, but I want to know part of this. I didn't even know until we were told, but I'm loyal to the crown, and when I told him I refused to go against the princesses, he had his pirates rough me, and the other innocents up and killed the rest. She broke into sobs, and it was all Twilight could do but hug her. Sergeant, we have a message from the captain! A new flyer, this one clearly exhausted from flying the super electric at the fastest speed possible. She all but collapsed in front of Rainbow as she passed over the message. Couldn't this be sent by Dragonfire? Control Point asked. Probably being blockaded. If you know what you're doing, you can intercept a message sent by Dragonfire. Grand Mages know the spell easily, and I'm glad Easy Cord knows that as well. Twilight said with relief, looking over Rainbow's withers to see if her friend read the message. A second later, Rainbow grunted, Well, that's great. Piggy's sense went off, and we haven't heard from Raz and the others. Then it confirms my theory, Twilight replied. What's your theory, ma'am? one of the combat flyers asked. Twilight nodded. My guess was he never intended to keep the whisper pitch. No, he intended to crash the ship into the middle of the garden, thus spending the spirit mint everywhere due to the explosive force of the cherry bomb fruits. Between that and the mint, it would be carried in the wind and hit his acorns with no problem, not have any effect on the rest of the populace. He could conquer the world without so much as a single bit of effort. Ma'am, we're approaching the center of the garden. The ship should start its terminal dive any minute now, one of the combat flyers said. There's only a way to neutralize the ship. Neutralize the ship? Twilight repeated, as if guided by a mechanical god. Her mind immediately laser-locked into a solution. That's it! She chirped. Let's it! Rainbow, completely out of the loop on whatever her friend's mental processes were at the moment, asked. I'll be right back, Twilight replied. For now, evacuate the ship and make sure it stays on course. On course? Yes! Don't move it so much as an inch. With that, Twilight winked out as she activated her teleport. You see, friendship is timeless. You don't always need to have Twilight cowering in fear and feeling down and going, passive Vince! You can have her be a badass! Now go back and rewrite again. On the bridge, Pinky started up again. Growly stomach, twisty tail, tearing eye. Pinky teared before shouting, "You right back! I have an important date with the outside!" Mrs. Maz looked at her oddly. Is something the matter, Miss Pie? My Pinky sense told me that Twilight found a super splendiferous way to beat meanie spam scorcher. Torch hammer. Whatever. But I gotta do it now. See ya! Without further ado, she raced down the wheelhouse and towards the lower decks. Mrs. Maz watched the Earth Pony go. I'll never understand her, Captain. Easy Cord allowed herself a gusto smile. Only like can understand like, Mr. Mass. It's how the world goes. Twilight appeared above the ship, hoping her plan would work. It made more sense to send Rainbow, given her speed. But at the same time, they knew who she was, would target her. No, teleporting back and forth only made sense. Now, the damn thing would cooperate with her. After all, she was the one using her magic on herself, not on it. That meant it was merely along for the ride, and nothing was being actively applied to it, right? As he landed by the bow, Pinky was already there, box and hoof, gift wrap, and a gift tag that said, Here's for you, Meanie. Here, Twilight! I brought the thing. I don't know why I brought the thing, but my Pinky says told me to because I had a series of instances that had happened that told me so. Oh, really? Like what? There's a lot of surprise, Pinky Plus. It's not polite to talk about that. Well, that was all she said. Twilight did not inquire further, but instead gratefully took the packets and with a mother hoping it would work, teleported away from the ship. As Pinky watched the magic dissipate, she grinned widely. Silly Twilight, of course it's going to work. Well, that, she raced off to the kitchens to plan the victory party. Parties weren't going to plan themselves after all. Meanwhile, back with Raspberry. And you're telling me you planned all this via tide jumps? Raspberry, still wearing a disguise as Sunset, and currently helpless, being tied up, asked. Torchhammer turned out to be the stupidest kind available. The mustache twirling while cackling maniacally and telling you all their plans type. And oh, how was he doing it with gusto? Of course! Now, you haven't been trained by Celestia. I know you can barely understand some of the concepts. No, that's not an insult to your intelligence, but rather an understanding that you weren't taught properly by her, as I know she hides all her secrets. Unfortunately for me, I learned the truth, and that sets me free. Rather full of yourself, isn't he? Rarity, tied up next to her, whispered. Like you wouldn't believe, Raspberry replied. Either not noticing or caring it was the subject of the second conversation, he continued. So then I decided to look through Starship's secret archives, and saw some of his unfinished spell, like Time Anchor and the like. And oh, what a hoot for Celestia to think I was in Tartarus all this time, when I was merely there for seconds. And all this time I've been anchoring myself to several time periods, also like at studying the time spells in peace. As then I discovered the Black Garden, a wonderful land that could give me both the chance to rule Celestia, because after all, it should be someone intelligent and wise to rule, correct? And a chance to make Celestia understand exactly what's it like to be a slave under her rule. Then why not bring it up to her? Applejack asked. I know Celestia. She's a fair-minded gal. Taurus Hammer theatrically sighed. I wouldn't expect someone who has the result of Equestria's poor education system. Again, no offense intended, and certainly not your fault, to understand the futility of bringing someone like that to Celestia. All she cares about is cake, her throne, and symbiotic pleasures. So it stands for someone to take the throne, and no pony in the royal line to save for her. That leads her to the outside talent, shall we say, to make amends. So with time on my horse, I formulated a plan. For decades, my loyal minions have been infiltrating the highest levels of government in the military. We've been carefully separating weather patterns and keeping watch over other nations. And now, while the chase of the attack, which I certainly admit I had no involvement in, was a masterful stroke, Poe Celestia is incapable of protecting the populace, and that sub-pony with a firm hoof to rule. Naturally, you know who that is. Smart move, Raspberry replied, deciding to play to his strengths. He was stupid enough to give away his plan. He was surly enough to give up extra information that the crown needed to protect Equestria. And there was one thing Raspberry took seriously. It was her oath to protect the realm. Giving a quick wink to Rarity, she then continued, Tell me more. Finally, he seemed to realize some of the common sense. I here carefully asked, Why should I? How do I know this is some trick by that Harridan to keep Celestia under her feet and prevent me from freeing the world as in my right? Because I too have something hidden from Celestia. I know dark magic. On cue, Sunset activated her horn, shouting dark magic for the pirates and her allies to see. Fireside, not having caught Raspberry's ruse, cried out, No, you can't! Granted, it worked in their favor, as Fireside's belief had been genuine, so her worries had not been faked. Applejack, not sure what was going on, but a terrible liar, onto the stage side and continued to stew at the situation. Rarity, however, was a better actress in this regard. Sunset, how could you? Celestia is like a mother to you. Sir Hammer, however, smiled. And yet you hid this dark knowledge from her. Quite shrewd, and you vowed to follow my path. Raspberry tried not to double-take at the sudden change in Stallion's ideas. This is like the biggest idiot I've ever met, and I've met more than a few in my life. Yes, I vow. Sunset, dude! Rarity screeched a little too loudly. Raspberry thought, but it was going to be an accurate trick. It had to be so. So what's the plan, boss? He grinned. Simplicity to yourself. I've made very special adjustment to Whisper Princess magic core. Then added some magical explosives. Then I sent it to class in the middle of the Black Garden, where I spent centuries growing a particularly strong strain of spirit mint. Between that explosion, the cherry bomb trees that ring that grove, and especially trained people under my axis, the world should be blackened in the spirit mint I need to control the soul alicorn in the world. And thus rule the world myself, for Celestia is my whore. He cackled like the true psycho he was. I will rule the world in its soul alicorn. Behold! To his word, the Whisper Prince appeared, and started to fall towards the ground. And each foot descended. Demanding howls and laughter from Torch Hammer continued, showing the stallion had zero sense of normalcy whatsoever. But then, Fireside's Pegasus eyes, staring in horror as the ship fell, caught a distinct purple glow underneath the bowsprit of the great vessel. I couldn't help but say the words that utterly confused all the animate pieces. Too bad there's another alicorn. She's about to stop you, you meanie. Fireside said with a confident smile. With mere dozens of feet to go as the airship rushed towards the ground, Twilight teleported right into the path. Holding the pearl while she carved up some Tarm and some Lemegane that she ran down once on a whim, but never thought she used for any occasion. Slapping the tar into the hull of the ship, she fixed the pearl, and then the Muzzleton sheet, hoping that it would work, as a once in a billion chance, and a stupid one too. It was a prank she created once, just for research. Back then she had zero interest in using it, much less friends to use it against. The rules were simple. The magical circle would create a jolt against whatever the paper was attached to, then amplify based on the ambient magic in the air. The victim will receive a harmless but shocking blast of energy. Twilight! She could hear Rainbow shout at her, moving at hurry speed ahead. We have to get out of here! Twilight looked at the pearl one last time, then at the ground oncoming below. It was now or never. If not, she might be able to last across as an alicorn, but Rainbow certainly wouldn't. Now! She shouted. Rainbow grabbed Twilight and go for a zero to Sonic Rainbow faster than any point he expected her to. With nothing to stop it, the Rainbow Pits collided right into the center of Black Garden. First, there was a massive crunch as the ship broke against the unyielding surface of the ground. The impact, as expected, set out the explosive magical core, was intense, centered out the cherry bomb trees, culminating in a gargantuan ball of fire that reached to the sky, sending up a mushroom-shaped blast of magical mist and dust, and a shockwave of a huge wall of white noise that rocketed out to the streets of the garden. Oh crap! It's a mega spell. Seeing that Torch Hammer was still too much of his self-congratulating laughter to protect everyone from the explosive onslaught, Raspberry dropped to the skies, returning to her normal form, threw up a shield to protect everyone as the blast of energy passed him. First I screamed in utter horror. Now you see, that's a good time to let her scream. The Torch Hammer, lost in his sanity, paid no heed to the structure around him, laughter railing on. But then a second wave, a warm and gorgeous enveloping wave of soft blue, warm yellow, and pure white, seemed to reach out for the center of the Black Garden, preparing to pull the deadly force back towards the center, like a supernova in reverse. The power of the light overmessled and compared to the power of the Black Garden in on itself, commanding it at every turn, until it compressed a brilliant, blinding star at the blast point, was then turned to column of solid power that roared through the air for a second, before dropping into nothing. The Black Garden became a lifeless collection of strange stones and inner columns, its floral denizens having been obliterated in the blast, or captured by the white brilliance. And the center of it all was a white pearl, now the size of a large pony. Glistening with power and radiating a sheer brilliance of light, marks of black briefly appeared across its surface, but were soon erased in golden flashes, as if something within the pearl slapped the hand of a petulant child drawing on a window. And the air, having been thrown a mile away, Rainbow and Twilight looked at the place that was once the Black Garden. The speedster looked at her friend and said, "Twilight, I had no idea what you did, but you stopped it!" Twilight smiled. "Oh, I can't take credit for this one. This one's entirely Sunset's fault." Torch Hammer immediately realized his plan hadn't gone according to plan. "Right, that's the kaboom! There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom!" His face turned to a snarl. "Oh, this makes me very, very angry!" He had turned to Sunset, demanded to know what happened. Instead, he found the alicorn to be back in the color she wore earlier. And a wise grin looked to her friend, the farming dunce. "Care to do the honors?" Raspberry asked Applejack. Wide grin on her face. "Gladly," she said with an equal one, then turned to bite Torch Hammer in her face, point blank. It was catapulted off his hose and set cartwheeling in the air before crashing face first into one of the battered columns that remained in the garden. "And that's for calling me stupid!" Farmer said, shaking a forehoof. For her part, Rarity simply smiled at the remaining pirates and asked, "Darlings, who's next?" The pirates, as one, surrendered immediately. They didn't need further evidence of their defeat. Meanwhile, back in the human world, "There," Sunset said to herself. As the last of the box, she set the pearl and vanished into the flame of the Dragonfire candle. With that done, she could activate its normal candle mode before her sister or cousin got back in. Suddenly, a small wooden box appeared in the Dragonfire candle. Not wishing to risk further mail, Sunset turned the normal candle back once more, closing the small portal back to her home world. Looking at the small box, she thought, "What's this?" Opening it, she found a pair of gorgeous amethyst stud earrings, along with a necklace made of pure white silver. Expensive, sure, but with Sunset's paycheck, it wasn't anything she couldn't cover with pretending to saved up. Once again, her friend had come through. Though Sunset had to wonder what Twilight did with the pearl. Given its size as well as the mysterious magic within, the object was probably taking up its space in her lab. Sunset laughed silently. There was also a note, which he assumed was from Twilight. Unfolding it, the Flame Herald girl read, "Dear Sunset, I hope these get to you on time. I had a very busy week and barely had time to commission these. Spike did most of the heavy lifting for me in that regard, so that's appreciated. Don't worry, I'm sure your brother will mellow out in time, as my Spike is older than yours, and thus a little wiser. Time changes everything, you know. As for the studs themselves, they should hopefully fit. I had to change into my human form and have rarity measure based on that. If your sister's ears are a little bit different, natural selection genetics and all that, a Highlander jeweler should have no problem modifying them. Just don't tell Color Earring if you're ever in town. She'll probably freak out that some pony messed up her masterpiece. Thank you for the books, even if fictional. These should help me understand your world a little better. Besides, well, what I heard the people talking about, the Spellbound series, it caught my attention. I suspect, however, they'll have to stay in my personal collection, as too many of the listening patrons might find the alien references a little too jolty for their tastes. I'm guessing you're wondering what happened to the pearl you sent. Well, it's not on one of my lab shells. I actually had to use it, strangely enough, to stop a problem in the middle of the Badlands. The Sentinel Gauss, then we'll call it for now, sits in the center of the White Garden, a major farming community that some of the Apple and Chemical families are helping to found. We found that the Sentinel had some interesting properties, and one of those is changing the land unsuitable for farming into soil perfect for it. Applejack herself said that this is so magically fertile that she wasn't so tied to the Plainfield, she moved to the Apple Acres to the White Garden immediately. As it is, her cousin, Apple, saying to her near form there as is. Okay, people, I beg you, don't do what this author did. No more cursive, please. I can barely read as it is. Karatov's older brother, oh, I'm so not reading that name, should have a bumper crop within a year or so. It's all due to the pearl that you sent there. Well, I know time's short and both you and I have busy schedules, so I'll let you go for now. I'll talk to you soon. Your friend, Twy. Well, Sunset slipped the letter to her desk, just to see her footfalls from outside the door. She looked to see her sister, Twy Sparkle, standing there, with a load of laundry in her hands. Can you help me fold this? Tavi's practicing and we have a ton of laundry. Sunset smiled. Sure thing, sis. Twy set the laundry on her sister's bed. You're in a good mood. Something happened? Sunset nodded. Yeah, just got a text from someone. Good news, too. Remind me to tell you about it sometime. Have we ever done 15,000 words on this show? I don't think we have.